Hello and welcome to this week's RuneScape podcast. I'm Mod MattHe, the podcast monkey, and with me today on the sofas I have...
Mod Rowley, content developer.
Mod Sarah, QA.
Hey, and today we're here to talk about the Vampire Quest that's due out very soon.
The Vampire Quest.
Well, would you care to give it its proper name?
Yes, yeah. This one is the sixth instalment of the Myreque series, or Myreque, or whatever you want to call it. Vampires. And we've called it the Lord of Vampyrium.
The Lord of Vampyrium.
Yep.
That suggests certain lordly things are going to happen.
And vampiric things, yeah.
Yes. So how did we get to where we are now? Obviously, the PC is going to take part in this quest, but how did they get here? What's the lore and the history behind the quest so far?
So there's two answers to that. So the first, as you suggest, is the lore perspective. And if you want to chip in here, Sarah, with things that I forget. But
Okay.
basically, so far, the player has entered Mauritania. They've met with this resistance group of humans fighting against the oppressive vampiric regime called the Myreque. I'll go for Myreque. And they've kind of helped them out. They've been under attack from a vampire called Vampyrium, who's harassed them for years. And you kind of help them through these early stages of relocation and arming and tooling up.
Yeah.
And connecting with another cell of Myreque within the vampire city.
Yeah.
And striking back, starting to... I guess it's kind of power creep. So you discover these... hidden weapon designs from a priest from way back when that actually lets you start to kill vampires. Later on, one of the vampire leaders, Vampyrium, makes herself known to you and seems to start to want to work with you and actually helps that power creep a little bit and introduces the blisterwood tree, which is what happened in the previous quest. And you actually start to kill off some of the top-level vampires like Vampyrium, like Ranis. And I should probably say there'll be spoilers in this podcast.
There may be spoilers in this podcast indeed, yes.
So that's the kind of narrative to where we are at the moment, is that the Myreque have scored a few victories. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. That's a victory earned through the help of Vampyrium.
Okay.
And now they're kind of setting their sights on what comes next.
And there's some supporting material about this in-game you can go and look at, and on our website, I understand. So, is it Rory and Amy in-game?
It's Amelia.
There we go.
Copyright dodging Amelia.
Rory and Amelia.
Right. These two kids who are in Berg de Rot, and like we do with a number of 5th Age quest series, is we have this recap mechanism, and they, in a very childlike way, recap events and misremember things and make stuff up. But
so they're worth going to go and have a chat to this weekend before you look at starting. Yeah.
They're very amusing.
And histories and lore.
So this is one thing that we're doing with this quest, is we're introducing the character of Lord Drakan, who is the head of House Drakan. He's the de facto leader of the entire vampire nation, but he's been absent from the game up until this point. He's just been a name and an idea. And one of the focuses of this quest is to introduce him as a character, what he's about. We wanted to do that a little bit early because of that absenteeism. And so Mod William put up a Laws and Histories page recently called The Old Blood, which just explores Lord Drakan as a character. And it's set at a time shortly after the fall of Zaros. Drakan decided to side with Zamorak, as many of Zaros' generals did, and helped to usurp him. And this is just a little bit after, during the fall of the Empire, where Drakan is hunting Azanadra. He's one of the people tracking down like this leftover remnant of the Zarosian Empire. Okay,
so that's up on the website?
That's up on the website, yeah.
Right, okay. And as you said, there's more than one side to how we got here, because obviously you guys, the Guardians as a team, haven't worked on the Vampire Quest before. So they've been a baton handed on from team to team almost, haven't they? Yeah,
it happens probably more often than players realise. But this one I think was a bit more public because we had the poll. It was a player power poll at the end of last year.
Yeah.
To decide between the next Vampire Quest and the Floor 61 quest.
Yeah.
It was another quite close one. but vampires did win out. And at the time, Modana was the curator. She obviously developed Myreque 5, the branches of Darkmire. But Anna at the time was head ninja, so it wasn't a project that she could actively develop herself.
No.
But because she was around, we drew on her knowledge and her plans. She obviously had plans for who to kill off next and how many.
Famously kill off, in fact.
And yeah, it just came to the Guardians in terms of development, but Anna was very heavily involved at the start, approving designs, and she had certain plot points that needed to be brought forward and some that needed to be held back for a finale and future quests, and some things that weren't so important that could be spun off perhaps in non-Vampire series content, things like what to do about werewolves and things like this.
Okay.
So we had a very clear list of things that we should and should not do, and we stuck to that. And of course, there's the whole period before that for Myreque 1 through 4 were all developed by Mod Titan.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. I think the reason it came to me, I think, more than anyone else, is because I'd worked with Titan on Myreque 3 and 4 as in an editorial capacity.
Yeah,
I had that knowledge working side by side with him, and some character and story development questions that arose as part of that.
And cursing the names he left you.
Do you have any commentary on those?
I don't know what I find more frustrating, trying to spell them to put them in bugs to send to Steve or and other developers, or whether it's trying to pronounce them.
There's a problem with this one.
Variations.
This one over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've resorted to nicknaming them all, so it's like Safi, Vanni, Veli. I forget. Draki. Just all short forms. It's easier.
Yeah.
But I don't know where they come from. They're crazy names.
Yeah.
It's great. There's a lot of flavour to it. But
Apart from Harold. There's a
Harold.
random Harold in there. It's so normal.
There'll be a reason for that one. There has to be, isn't there?
I'm wondering as well if there may be anagrams of things that I'm just not sure of.
Quite possibly.
Because the name Calcidew is recognised as... Sorry, Calcidew is, again, another character who has never been seen, only ever mentioned, and that's an anagram of suicidal.
Right, okay.
Which pretty much sums up the Myreque, I think, at this point. So there's maybe something to that we're not seeing.
So what is this quest about, then?
Spoilers.
Well, spoilers, yes. To a certain extent.
There's a horse head just creeping up behind us right now.
It's about the Myreque taking one more step towards dealing with the vampires.
Right.
And how best to do that. And having somebody come forward and say, actually, now would be a good time to strike, to try and deliver a final blow towards them, although it's not final.
Yes.
And it's about you helping the Myreque to achieve that and helping guide them through
the adventures and challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll probably leave it there. I think we've just done enough to bait the hook, as it were. So what requirements are there for the quest? Obviously, some people will be able to or won't be able to do it at the moment.
There's probably, again, two answers there. So the first is the mundane. Okay, so you need to have completed branches of Darkmire, obviously. Skill requirements, we've got Construction 79, Slayer 78, Hunter 76, and then 75 in Attack, Constitution, Defense, and Strength. So they're fairly straightforward requirements. It's not quests from here, there, and everywhere, and that's because it's a 5th Age series continuation.
So it's having followed that chain and the likely levels you're going to be at from having followed that chain anyway.
Yeah. And then I suppose the other answer is things like Nerves of Steel and Iron Constitution.
Yeah.
I've been quite close to it, just working on it so much, it's hard to step back and see it, but other people are describing it as being quite... there's kind of like a build-up to it, there's an intensity. It continues the dark, foreboding feel that lies over the rest of the series.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's true.
Dark, shadowy theme.
Yeah.
And I understand there's a couple of recommendations that players might want to have with them when they start.
You need the Myreque outfit.
Right.
That you gain from Branches of Darkmire.
Yeah.
The medallion, Drakan's medallion, is also useful, obviously for the teleports.
Yeah.
And possibly a blisterwood weapon would be
would be
handy.
Maybe
might be a little bit
useful. Okay.
You might, also the flail of Evandis we could let in if you like hamstringing yourself and making things difficult. And it's a silly weapon, let's be honest. But you can use it if you want.
So one thing I've been hearing great things about in the studio is the audio that's gone into this.
Yeah, I've been very happy with it. I think a lot of that intensity of the atmosphere of the quest is definitely, if not coming directly from the audio, is hugely enhanced by it. And it's one of those quests. I know we say this for every quest, but you really should turn your audio on for this one. Right,
so we're now going to hear a little bit of the audio now from one of the sequences. So if we can play that now. Wow, that is really good.
Yeah, so this was a piece from. It's quite early on in the quest, so it's not too spoilery to say.
Right.
And this is set in an area where there are some really. This is like the cream of the crop, top brass of vampiric high society. So you've already mingled with the lords and the ladies, but these are the lords and the ladies who don't walk around the streets at ground level. These are. They live in the highest parts of the castle. Yeah. They're lauded. They're predominantly what we're referring to as trueborn vampires.
Okay.
This is, again, connecting back to the title.
Yeah.
So these would have been original vampires from the vampiric homeworld who came with Zaros, or descendants thereof.
Yeah.
As opposed to the lower
orders,
which would tend to be humans converted into vampires.
Okay.
So these are some really, it's difficult to say nasty evil because this is one thing.
Ancient.
Yeah, they've got a certain outlook on how things should be.
Okay.
And that kind of good evil vibe is one thing we've tried to steer away from.
Yeah.
Because we don't like the plain old this is good, this is bad.
Yeah.
Vampire's bad, kill. We try to inject their perspective a bit here.
Yeah, it's more complex than that.
Yeah. Which makes for more interesting characters and plots.
Yeah.
But this particular music, obviously, this scene is kind of a bit like a gathering, a party, if you will. But it's very dark and foreboding, and it's not your typical party.
No,
it's not one you'd go to.
And the kind of soundscape the audio team is managing to create really supports that.
Definitely, yeah. There's again, like the kind of ramping up that people have been saying, this like growing dread and intensity. It's reflected very definitely in the audio too. Mod Bond put out a medley on SoundCloud,
right,
just last week, which is definitely worth a listen. And if that captures your imagination, then you should definitely have your sound on for this quest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand we've done some interesting things with combat and puzzle sequences this time compared to some previous work.
Yeah, I mean, it is still RuneScape combat.
Yes.
They are still RuneScape puzzles. They will frustrate and excite in equal measure, as everything we do does.
Modsera is nodding repeatedly.
I am not a puzzle fan. I can never quite see the solution, and I'm more of a player that will just keep clicking till it eventually solves itself. I think my longest time is 1 hour and 40 minutes on one of these puzzles, just clicking, hoping it would solve itself.
to be fair, this is not entirely all on Montero here, because I designed the puzzle. I said, okay, I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I coded it, tried it out in game, and I couldn't solve it. I was like, so how do I solve my puzzle?
Right.
And it took going to Mod Krista, props, shout out to Mod Krista, who managed to deliver a kind of step-by-step, this is how you solve the puzzle that you've just created.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful. So I was glad for that. But the thing with the Myreque series is it's not really well known for having difficult puzzles.
Yeah.
There's not actually that difficult a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's a very simple step to solution. It's just that I didn't know it. But it's not too bad. And if it is the sort of puzzle that might frustrate, then just wait a day and there'll be guides. So don't worry about that too much. It's entirely solvable.
Yes.
It's probably not as difficult as the ones within the Light Within.
Yeah.
So there's that. And in terms of combat, like you say, again, it's just RuneScape combat. There's nothing. We're not doing anything crazy, experimental. It's more in the framing of it, the theming. It's a narrative element more than a gameplay element as such. We just tried a different approach to it, which hopefully will come across.
Okay. So where does this quest fit into the 6th age then?
Technically doesn't. It's a 5th age quest.
Yeah.
So it's pre the gods have returned.
Yeah.
So there's not really much of a 6th age feel to it.
It's about building on the pillars of the 5th age rather than the 6th age.
Yep. In fact, it's more the opposite in that we're exploring ancient history.
Yeah.
Vampires as a race, they're generally quite old individually. With the return of Lord Drakan, who hasn't even been seen in public for centuries, and the roots of vampires within the Zerosian Empire and pre-Zerosian Empire, with some of the history we're exploring, like the idea that vampires used to be quite feral and tribal, and that they only became civilized when Zaros left his mark on them, brought them into the Empire in Gielinor, and that kind of history of the vampires and their move to Mauritania, and then their subsequent, effectively, well, depending on perspective, their dominance or decline. It's an interesting dilemma for them.
The fact that they're all unique as well. No one sort of group or tribe is like the other. They're all different in their tastes and what they prefer to do hunting-wise and things like that. It's
it was good fun writing some of those, coming up with... Because, I mean, vampires, it's very hard to find anything new or interesting to talk about because they're so ingrained within popular culture. And so we didn't want sparkly vampires, we didn't want to do this, that and the other. Although with the current Bloom anti-aliasing issue, maybe some of them will be sparkly, who knows.
Sparkly RuneScape vampires.
So one of the things we've done is, and I'm sure this is in some vampire mythology somewhere, the idea that emotional states of the blood donor would affect the taste of the blood. And that because of this, certain tribes would hunt in certain ways to affect that taste. And over the years, they've become accustomed to a certain way of doing things. And that doesn't necessarily go across the entire race. So they still have those tribal roots even now in society.
They're almost a cultural war still resonating through.
So even within vampires, it's not. They might all look very similar to humans, and they're really not. And that's reflected within the characters of Vanascula and Drakan in their approach to things, and the fact that Vanascula is quite willing to work with humans and help humans, whereas Drakan is more of a traditionalist in a way.
So, what are the rewards from the quest?
As always, there is some nice chunks of XP.
Whee.
There's a weapon.
Okay.
And there's also some new wing overrides.
Okay. Are we not going to detail some of it?
I will leave it up to Mod Rowley as to whether he details these things. I'm going to be cryptic.
I mean, again, the weapons, we've already shown the new blisterwood weapons.
Yes.
We wanted to just fill out the combat styles with dual wielding and two-handed variants, just to give more variety, more options, more choice. Plus, it lets us do a stupid stroke cool crossbow that throws stakes. Looks ridiculous.
Yep.
Wouldn't work out in a real world.
But this is RuneScape.
It looks cool.
Yeah, so of course it works.
So a wizard did it.
A wizard did it,
A
yeah.
wizard did it.
But also to kind of continue the themes and the approach that we've taken to the series as a whole, this idea of power creep, of gaining strength, getting stronger. So there's a little bit more of that in there too, within the rewards, and it's something we will expand upon in the inevitable finale.
Okay. I have 2 last questions. The first one of which is, there's a vampire riddle out there, competition out there. Have either of you managed to complete the riddle yet?
Yep.
Wait.
Legit.
Yeah?
Yep.
Mod Sarah?
No.
I haven't either. I've completely failed.
Yeah, I went to the forums and I did look at the first one and solved the first solution, and then decided that maybe sending Mod Rowley a couple of bugs was much more fun. So I haven't quite completed it yet.
Okay, and last question. Vaniscula or Dracan?
That's actually a tough one. They're both, hopefully players will think they're both interesting characters. I think they already think Vaniscula's interesting.
Yeah.
The kind of the juxtaposition of whether or not she's a friend, a true ally, or if she's just after something for herself.
Yeah.
And that even if she is on your side, she's incredibly rude and forthright, which is something we've kept up. But she's interesting. I'd have to say Vaniscula. Dracan's good, though.
Mod Sarah?
I don't think I'd side with either of them.
Ooh.
However, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Dracan.
Right,
his history, his past, the things you learn about his tribe and how he got to where he is now just interests me from a lore perspective.
Super.
So I would be drawn to him more than Vaniscula.
Right, okay.
But maybe there's a way that players can see for themselves who they'd support.
Yeah, I think we might end up straw polling it after the quiz is out.
Or indeed some sort of quiz, perhaps?
Well, maybe.
We'll see. Okay.
Right, well, thanks for coming in today. I'm really looking forward to seeing the quest out, and hopefully players will love it.
Yeah, very much so. I very much hope that they enjoy it based on its history, yes. But from the buzz around the office, it sounds like it's going to do okay.
Yeah, sounds like it's going to be awesome. Thanks, and bye to our listeners.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.